In the 1970s, after experiencing the oil crisis, Denmark decided it needed to cut its dependence on imported fossil fuel. 30 years later, the small European country produces 20% of its energy from the wind. In the first of a new series from Denmark, we take a closer look at its wind turbines. Fairy tales, scenery, culture and canals are what tourists expect to find when they come to the gentle country of Denmark. When it comes to rescuing princesses, no one tells it better than Hans Christian Andersen. And when it comes to being buffeted by the wind, no people have more practice than the Danes.
Today we have managed to integrate about 20 to 21% of wind power. That in 2025 we should be able to integrate up to 50%.
Denmark is in the path of the Westerlies beside the windy North Sea and has over 400 islands along its 7,000-kilometre coast. In other words, conditions are ideal for wind power. The drive from Copenhagen to Lowland, which is one of the 4 main islands, takes only 3 hours. In the fields along the way, stacks of freshly baled straw are piled up like sugar cubes. It's windy here. The fields of turnip mustard have yet to be harvested, and there's a fresh smell in the air. You would never guess this used to be an industrial site. Nowadays, the lowland population of 50,000 people live in the shadow of over 500 wind turbines. The wind that buffets the grass also turns the blades of the huge turbines and drives the cogs of the new economy. Looking inland, one white turbine after another dots the landscape, while out to sea, the ocean surface has also become a wind farm.
Today, the largest turbines are about 150-160 meters to the top of the wing, but offshore, I don't see any obstacles in building 200 and 250 meters turbines. So far, we have experience with about 100 turbines offshore in parks, but I can see that in the future we will see much bigger parks.
This patch of sea is a virtual gold mine for clean energy. Denmark has 26 offshore wind farms. The next plan is to build 250-metre high turbines on the major island of Thisted. Known as the cold Hawaii, Thisted has 100 kilometres of beach and stiff breezes that make it a popular surfing spot. Peppering the island are 251 wind turbines, which provide enough power for local needs and a surplus for export. Islanders have thrown themselves into alternative energy development with a competitive zeal.
They did it on their own, and they thought it out, and they planned it, and they used their own knowledge and expertise, and they created a community that's off-grid. It doesn't have to rely on Russian gas, it doesn't have to rely on Middle East oil. It's all local. So it's what we call a third industrial revolution.
Free from the limitations of space on land, offshore wind farms have a power output as high as the ocean winds. Undersea cables take electricity through transformers to where it's needed. For Denmark, green energy is not window dressing, but the future structure of the national grid. Denmark may lack the striking skylines and towering buildings of other countries, but when it comes to wind power, the sky is the limit.